Hi, I'm Sheila Hageman. I'm from originally Trumbull, Connecticut, and I live in Stratford now. When I was 12, about to turn 13, my parents got divorced, and my father moved out, and he took, all his stuff, a lot of things, and the one thing that he didn't take was a trunk in the basement. So it held a lot of mystery to me, and I was determined to find out what was in that trunk. So when I finally broke it open, it was a trunk full of porno magazines. I became obsessed with looking at these images and trying to understand what they meant, what they were all about. From that point on, there was this part of me that wanted to be seen. And I look back on it, and through lots of self-reflection, I've kind of come to the realization that I think I really felt like this was the way to be seen as a woman. So I started modeling and acting. And when I was 18, I wanted to move to New York City, and to save money for that, I thought the best option would to become a stripper. So at 18, I started nude modeling and stripping, and all the while saying, well, this is only a very temporary thing, I'm going to do this. I even thought of myself not actually as a stripper, but as just an actress playing the part of a stripper. I had lots of mixed feelings about it. There was a part of me that really liked being on stage. I loved acting. I loved being seen. I loved having the spotlight on me. But I did not love, obviously, all the negative things that came along with being a stripper. I didn't love the judgments that my family and friends had about me. I didn't love the way that I knew the world thought about me. So I received a phone call. This was when I had been stripping for 6 years. I was living with a boyfriend. I remember I was in the living room, and I got a phone call from my mom, and she told me that they had found a lump in her breast. The world just kind of stopped. It's one of those moments where you know it's having an impact on your life, because it just like time stops. Having no real connection to my own body, even though I was standing on stage naked, there was this sense of being cut off from myself, or having any understanding of what I was doing. So when this happened to my mom, it was this wake-up call, and I decided I really need to figure out what I was doing. It wasn't like this overnight thing where all of a sudden I was like, I'm changing my life. It took time, but it was this process of knowing things are going to change. And I decided I was going to go back to college. So I went to school thinking that I would study psychology. That's what I started. And my very first class, though, was an English composition class. And my teacher came in. She was an older woman. And she told us on that very first day that when she started school, in her very first class, she decided that she was going to have a straight A average. And I remember I was sitting in the classroom, and I was like looking at her, and I was like, well, there's nothing different about her than me. If she could do it, why can't I do it? And I ended up graduating college as my valedictorian. I can remember doing my speech in front of, it was like over 1,000 people, and just the amazing sense that if people knew my past and knew where I had come, almost like this sense of that people wouldn't believe it. So from that point on, and what I did discover when I went back to college was that my original love had been writing. And then I went back to school to get my master's degree in creative writing, and I started writing my story. And my story, I thought, was writing about how I'd been this stripper and how, I'd gotten out of the life. And when I started writing it, my mom's cancer had come back. I stopped and I said, well, what if my story is here and my story is now? The story became understanding how I had become a stripper, but also how I had come through it. The relationship to my body, which was something that was always there. I think since I had discovered those magazines in that trunk, my life became really heavily focused on what I looked like. This idea of reflecting on ourselves, to me that seems like what has carried me through my life and is what always helps me to figure out where I want to go next. So I think if I had to say, we talk about what our story is, and I think when I help students write, because I teach composition, which is kind of funny since that's the class where I decided to really make a choice about my life. So when I help my students with composition and writing, the thing that I always come back to is this idea of discovering the voice. But what seems to be really important and what seems to be what guides me through life is the sense that I'm always questioning it, that I'm always looking back at it and trying to make sense of it. And although some people may think, the past is in the past and I should never talk about the stripping again because look, I'm a mother, I'm a teacher, I'm a writer, that the past should just be left in the past, I disagree. I think the past is who makes us who we are, and that through that continual self-reflection that we are able then to help other people and to move through that past and make it a part of who we are. Moving away from any shame or any guilt, there's really no reason, especially if you are in a position where you are working on helping other people through that. Having had the experience is what helps people relate and be able to move through their own stuff and see that their story has meaning and has purpose. And that's what I see as the goal of life, is to help myself and to help other people to really cherish their stories and know that our stories are what makes us who we are.